Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to author Lynda Filler. Lynda is the author of the book Love, the Beat Goes On, the inspirational story of how Lynda dealt with being told to get her affairs in order as she had an incurable heart condition and just 6 months to live. Hi, Lynda. First of all, welcome, and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Oh, thank you, Claire. I'm so excited to be here. It's a pleasure.
Good, thank you. So tell me, Lynda, in 2008, you were told you only had 6 months to live and to get your affairs in order. Yet here we are in 2017, and thank goodness you're still around. What are the concepts and beliefs that you believe led to your healing?
Well, it's interesting, Claire, because from the moment, first of all, I walked around with an undiagnosed heart condition probably for, I'm going to say about 10 years. And
Wow.
I'd had some kind of an EKG done, and I'd gone to a heart specialist in the 90s, and I never bothered going back. And I mean, I was just always very, I don't know, everything else in my life came first: my family, my children, my job, my career.
Right.
I was, like a lot of women, I was the last person on the list.
Sure.
And then in 2002, I moved to Mexico from Canada. So I'm a Canadian girl.
Mm-hmm.
And 2007, I decided to go back to Canada. These pieces of my life are in the book. I had originally started writing this book in 2009 after I was cured, and then I put it on the back burner.
Right.
So in 2007, when I drove back to Canada, when I got to Canada, I'd been having shortness of breath, and it just never crossed my mind. I have allergies, and I take medication for infection, sinus infection stuff. And I thought I was allergic to the stupid medication. That's self-diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things about our country is there's a lot of respect given to people from the medical profession. They give you a lot of time and a lot of caring, a lot of nurturing, and they listen to you. And I said to the doctor one day, I had an attack. I literally had a heart attack in the middle of the night. I drove to the hospital and I said, I know I'm allergic to medication. Just give me an adrenaline shot.
Yeah.
And they gave me an adrenaline shot. They never did an EKG, and I was in the middle of a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And I blamed that on myself. So I ended up driving to Canada in the middle of having these attacks and not realizing. So I spent 2 weeks on the road by myself, and the condition worsened. I saw the doctors. After 6 months, 9 months, the doctor said to me, "You are not responding to medication. Get your affairs in order. There's nothing more we can do for you."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked because, of course, I did what everybody does, and I Googled and did all the things that I tell people don't do,
Mm.
and the results said that the only thing that can really help you is a heart transplant. I
Right.
went, like, that's crazy. That's insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from the moment I took the first little baby pill they gave me, I never had an incident again. So I just couldn't correlate the fact of how bad the results were and the response to my heart. I couldn't correlate the two to who I felt that I was. So in a desperation move, and I tell this in my book, and I'm sure this is not for everybody. In a desperation move, I went to Sedona, Arizona, and worked with shaman.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart was at a 28% ejection fraction, which is really, really bad.
Right.
It's hardly pumping. Normal is they would like you to be between 55 and 60. So I was pumping at half rate, and I thought I was going to die. I spent 4 days in a hospital up there. I mean, it was just a mess, but I still went up to Sedona. I went from Phoenix to Sedona to with a healer, and I came down from that vortex healed.
Yeah.
And my heart went right up to normal. So there were many things that I worked on through that period of time, and many things I continued to work on because of his input and because of the belief system that I had. I did not, and I know this is going to sound crazy, I just didn't believe that my heart condition was physical. I believed it was a physical representation of all the emotional crap that I'd gone through in my life and held inside my heart.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm of the same belief.
Mm-hmm.
Of the same.
So basically, what the doctor, I said to the doctor, explain to me what's going on in layman's language that I can understand. He said, well, your heart is swollen. It's got so much blood in there, and the blood is not pumping out fast enough, and it's causing these, shortness of breath and all these things, and that's what's going on with you. So instead of going a more traditional route and researching all the different medications I should take and the newest and the latest whatever was going on out there. I worked with a Reiki specialist. I do Reiki myself. I learned more about it, worked on my heart. Basically, my number one thing that I tell people in my book is to stop Googling. Googling will make you crazy.
Okay, Lynda.
I put myself recently, after I wrote the book, I put myself on a, what would you call it? It's a group of people that are suffering from the same heart condition I had. It's a UK group, and it's filled with a lot of people. And the UK
So, Lynda,
website.
sorry to interrupt you. So the concepts and beliefs that you believe led to your healing are spiritual, most definitely, wouldn't you say?
I would say they're spiritual, they're mindset, they're heart centered. That's why the book is called Love. Their forgiveness.
Well, that's great.
Gratitude. They're all the things that worked for me and that I still practice to this day.
That's wonderful. So I'm a great fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer. Having watched one of his PBS shows on YouTube, I was inspired to write my first book. Your bio says that after an experience in the summer of 2015 relating to Dr. Wayne Dyer, you were ready to release Love, the Beat Goes On. May I ask you to share that experience?
That was very special. Like you, I've been a fan of Dr. Dyer for a million years, right? As long as he's got something like 40 books out there on the market. But I never really read any of his books to completion. I just listened to his things like you did and you said. I had put my book aside. I started writing in 2009, but I was writing it as a memoir, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to dredge up a whole bunch of stuff from my past. I didn't want to go there in terms of, I just did not want to dwell on it, right? It's like dwelling on an illness.
Yeah.
So I put it aside, and I was working with a book mama, we call her, Lynda Silverstein, and she's very well known in what she does. And she had said to me at one point, you shouldn't be writing this book right now, because what if your cure doesn't take? And I went, wow, that was a kind of a strange moment for me, because it was such a lack of faith or belief or understanding of why I felt I was healed, right? That would be like saying, what if you all of a sudden change your mind about love and forgiveness and all these things, right? So anyways, I put the whole thing aside. 2015, summer morning here in Mexico, I woke up from a dream. I don't remember the dream, but I was laughing out loud because I could hear this voice in the room, and he said to me, "Are you ready yet?"
Right.
And I knew it was his voice because I'd heard his voice more than I'd read his words, right?
Yeah.
And I laughed out loud, and I went, okay, all right, okay, I'll start thinking about it. And this year I had a very beautiful experience that happened to me. It was very traumatic at the time, but it was beautiful. That freed up time in my life that I could focus on this. And I wrote it in a very different manner, and it just flowed quickly and easily. And I'm very, very thrilled with the results. The reviews, as you said, are amazing. They're beyond. They make me cry every day because I know I'm touching people's hearts. And it's not just about heart condition. It's about heart, period. It's about those things that hold us back and screw up our lives, right?
You've received some great feedback for Love, the Beat Goes On. I mean, it goes without saying we all deserve to live a happy and healthy life. But no matter what, there are some people that don't believe they do. What would you say to them?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Okay, so if some people don't believe they deserve to live a happy life, I wrote this down because it came to me very clearly. The question you need to ask yourself is, where does happiness come from?
Right.
Okay. There's only one person that's in control of your happiness.
Yes, you.
You.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that if you believe you deserve to live, like if someone believes they don't deserve to lead a happy life, then that means they've given up on themselves.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they'll get, an unhappy life.
Unhappy. So you have to go inside, and you have to purge, and you have to burn. And I wrote all these things in my book because they were all things that I've done over the years, because I tend to fall in love, and I don't always fall in love with the appropriate, correct person in someone else's mind. And I've had a lot of, not just marriages, but a lot of relationships that have been very disappointing. And I mean, that's part of the reason that I know that my heart was such a mess. So you have to clean these things up, and you have to get rid of it in your life, right? So
that's it.
Happiness will always be an inside job, and there's lots of little ideas and ways to do that in my story.
I can't wait to read it. So you live in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and apparently lead an unconventional lifestyle. What's so unconventional about it?
Well, I've always been, for the first many years of my life, I ran my own businesses.
Mm.
And I come from a military background, so it's an easy thing for me to pick up and pack up my car and move my life. And,
Mm.
I now have a son living in Paris and a grandbaby in Paris. And if my circumstances were slightly different, I'd probably be living in Paris. It's just an easy thing for me. I take myself with me wherever I go, and I'm
Right.
happy where I go, right? That's
Yeah.
just who I am. So for my friends, they're all still living in the same places that they grew up in.
Mm.
And my sister um, pretty much was born very close to Ottawa, and that was my father's last posting in the military, and she's never lived anywhere else. So
Right.
she's all her life in one place. She travels a bit, but it's so for people who look at my life, they say it's very unconventional.
Yeah, because you
When
picked up and moved yourself.
I just, I'm happy wherever I go and wherever I live, and I'm an artist, so I have tremendous inspiration, photography, and
Fabulous.
everything else in the climate, right?
So you also write romantic thrillers. Please tell Book Talk Radio Club listeners a little bit about the Carlos and Mia series.
Carlos and Me is a story of an older woman and a younger man who met. She was 50, he was 20, and they started a relationship through books, which is a very strange way for them to start a relationship. So it's slightly autobiographical, which everybody has more or less figured out. But the story of Carlos is a young man who grew up on the streets. His parents were murdered when he was 6 years old, and his family, there were no family to take him in. He was a child from a relationship, about a third or fourth relationship as a father. So he grew up in the streets of Acapulco doing whatever you have to do to stay alive.
Mm.
The background behind the story is as he gets closer to Mia, who's this older woman, and they were an instant fall in love from the moment they met. He unveils his story, and he unveils his story through emails back and forth. So it's a very interesting, a very unusual way to write a story.
Sure.
I call it a romantic suspense because there is a lot of love or sex or combination of illicit situations and scenes in the book. It's not a right. It's not a straight mystery, but it's not really a traditional. If you read any of the reviews, it's not a traditional love story.
Sure.
It turns out Carlos's family are the largest drug cartel in Mexico, and of course Mia didn't know this. So the story is how they extricated themselves from the situation.
Fantastic. I'm
That's
sorry,
what
I'm going to have to move you along a little bit because there isn't a lot of time on here. So you're a poet too. How would you describe your poetry?
my poetry is probably where I really started writing um, and putting it out there, publishing.
Mm.
My first poetry book was called The Love Fix,
Mm.
and I put it out. And again, if you read through the poetry, you kind of get an idea of where I came to or what was going on in my world at that time. It's street talk. It's not traditional in any way, shape, or form. I've never entered a poetry contest, and I've been writing poetry, I don't know, since 2005.
Right.
No, wow. But it's just a way. It's like journaling. Like someone else would do a journal, I would wake up and throw it down as poetry.
Okay.
So it's very, very cool. I've had anybody who's ever read it has really liked it. Poetry is not something that you write to I don't think to make a living from or to sell. It's not something that people naturally go
Sure.
to.
Sure.
But it's certainly a great way it's a great outlet.
I see from your blog you're working on book 4 in your novella series Jet. Who or what is Jet?
I'm working on 3 books right now, but I got a text, an email last night or something through Twitter actually from one of my fans saying, when are you writing the next Carlos book? Because I have 2. I have Target in the Sun and Vanished in the Sun, and that story is swirling around in my head, book 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jet is a character by an author named Russell Blake. And it's his fault. It's Russell's fault. He lives in Cabo. He's American living in Cabo. He started writing in 2010-11 and has over 50 books on Amazon. Super successful guy, super prolific. And he started the Jet series, and she's an ex-Israeli Mossad agent.
Mm-hmm.
She had to disappear, and she has a 3-year-old child. So Jet is very active. She's very wild. She's faked her own death. She stole from the cartels. She's a real action, exciting, fun woman to write about.
Fabulous.
So I started. So Russell Blake did a series called Kindle Worlds. I don't know if are you familiar with Kindle Worlds?
No.
Okay, they're only really sold in the United States. So they're $1.99 novellas, and that's how I actually started publishing fiction. Was with my first jet in 2015, and it was so successful that I started running with it. So now I'm on book 4. It's
Fantastic.
great, great fun.
Lovely.
So,
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you, Lynda. So where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase your book? Books in the plural.
all the full-length books and the poetry are available on Amazon.
Right.
All the sites of Amazon all over the world. So the only books that are only available in the States are the novellas.
Okay.
And I have 2 for the lay crime world as well. I have 11 books out there. But the Target books and Target and In the Sun series is available on Amazon.
Brilliant.
In UK, anywhere, any of the sites. I have fans from all over the world. And so are the poetry books.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Lynda. That was great. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club when you finish your next book, and I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you everyone for listening to Book Talk Radio. Bye, Lynda.
Bye. Thanks, Claire.
Sure.